Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Willow Green, and I have the privilege and the pleasure of being here today with Ortrun Franklin, who is a published author. She has been studying metaphysics and practicing for over 50 years. She is an esoteric Egyptologist, a Coptics minister, and she started her own mystery school that she's also going to share with us. And she's a practitioner of balanced relationships. And we will go through today what all of that actually means. Hello, Ortrun. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. It's really great to be with you, all of you.
So let's start with what is an esoteric Egyptologist?
Well, an esoteric Egyptologist is someone that is not the traditional Egyptologist that goes in and studies the stones and all the archaeological aspects. What they are is ones that study more the deeper meaning of what is actually, for instance, in the hieroglyphs or the temples where there are all these hieroglyphs and so on, and be able to start translating what those actually mean, because everything there in Egypt has an outer and inner meaning. And the outer meaning is more when you see the pictures, such as the hieroglyphs, you see what went on in everyday life. But also, when you look at them, you can look at the pictures, the works, and see other things starting to come out, which is a lot deeper. It's more related to you as an individual, and it can show, okay, this is what's going on out here in the world, but this is also going on inside of me. So you can see different symbols that will pop out at you and so on. So there's a totally different story. To me, what I compare it to is you reading a paragraph, maybe in the Bible or a holy book, and you're reading it and you have some meaning with it. Then you can go back to that paragraph and it's different. The meaning is different now. And that's the same thing with your papyrus art. And because they're telling a story. See, because if you go far enough back into teachings of the ancient Egyptian teachings, is that Egypt really represents us as an individual and that which is within us. So that's all the further I'm going to go right at this moment, but maybe we'll get back to it.
Thank you. What I didn't mention was Sakara. And that is something that you specialize in, that you learned when you were in Egypt. And I feel like that's kind of the next question or the next place to go after talking about Egypt. Can you share a little bit about that?
Okay, Saqqara is actually Saqqara, which is the first Egyptian pyramid built. It's the step pyramid. And I didn't necessarily learn it there. I was given how to do this type of healing. And basically, the healing represents the steps, the chakras that are within you. So because it's all parallel, everything is parallel. And it actually gives you the older teachings, the ones that are more dwell within you instead of out here. So it's very much takes you within, and then you can look at, look at the chakras and see where things might be stuck, where things need to be still dissipated, and then send that divine radiant energy into those spaces and then draw you all together, all your bodies together and so on, so that you can function more, becoming that heaven and earth, the person that you're supposed to be, head in the heavens and feet on the ground.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, that's the healing modality that you use, or one of the modalities to work with people to help balance them and teach them about their own energy, awareness of their own energy, and how to bring it all in, embody it, and embrace it in a way that best serves them.
Yes, and the thing is I know other various types of energy, and I've known them, practiced them somewhat, but this is probably over my many years of teaching and being in the metaphysical field. This is the one that was really given to me more recently. So I didn't really receive that right at Saqqara pyramid when I was there. I received this in pieces as time went on.
When you talk about receiving these things in pieces, you shared with me kind of how this journey began when you were a young woman, and received your first cross. Would you share a little bit about that and the pieces and how this all started for you?
Yes, I've always been basically a pretty, I'm going to say a little holy girl. I was raised as a Catholic, and I would do the Stations of the Cross, and I would really love being in a church and so on. But time went on and things changed. But one day, I was a mom now. I was a single mom, and I had 3 children, and I happened to walk into this Woolworths, that's a long time ago, dime store, and I walked up to their case, their jewelry case, and there I saw, I just looked down and said, "Oh, everlasting life." And then I found out later it was a cross, but it was one that I'd never seen before. And then years and years later, I found out that it was actually the old ancient Egyptian cross. So I bought this cross and I wore it. I bet it was 7 years. I wore it almost every single day. And then eventually, Carl and I were married. This is my husband, of course. And we moved to Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I don't know why, because he had his journey, I had my journey, and we came together at a certain point. And then we just were thrown into this speaking engagements and so on. I couldn't even believe what was going on. And it was with a group called the Coptics. And Coptics there's the Coptic Christians, that's Egyptian Christians, or Coptic Christians. And that is when their literature, that is when I saw this Ankh, this Egyptian cross. I thought, oh my gosh, see, I had been given this symbol and I wore it on me for 7 years. Almost daily I wore this because I liked it so much. And so the energies started accumulating. I put it by my heart and, working with the divine, because I've always been like a little holy girl in those days. And it opened my heart up more and more and more. And then it was time for me to go into the next level, mainly of the metaphysical studies from the Egyptian realm. And the Coptics that came to America, his name was Hamid Bey, and he actually went through the esoteric mystery schools of Egypt. And he came to the United States in the late 20s, because really America was said to be the new paradise. And it wasn't just the Coptics that were coming. It was the times the Hindus were starting to come over, and all more of the esoteric Eastern religions were starting to come to the West. So that's how it came to the United States. And Hamid Bey had passed away by the time my husband and I became part of it. But basically, we're almost like leaders with them, because the old Coptics ended, and then the one that headed up Coptics, he and his wife and us, we chose to further it, but also include universality. Where Coptics was, before that, they were more boxed in and teaching only the teachings of Hamid, which are really similar to all of the many religions around the world. But that's happened to be our road of the beginning of going further and further into our divine essences.
And from there, that's what led you into actually creating your own mystery school, correct?
Right. We were with Coptics for many, many years, and we created their actual mystery school program, and they had different levels of consciousness, of learning and so on. But after a certain amount of years, it felt like we were just stuck, especially me, because I was a woman. And so back in those days, it happens a little bit now too, is the women weren't heard quite as much. And I would say something that I thought was quite significant, but then everybody just looked around, and then 2 minutes later, my husband would say the same thing. And, oh, that's so wonderful. Oh, what a great idea. But, we were sort of pushed back behind. And I had this sense that I wasn't really supposed to be behind him. It was supposed to be equal. And that's what I really looked for in our relationship was anyways, the equality of the relationship of walking together. So it was really time for me to move on, because I wasn't, actually acknowledged for what I was meant to do. So, and my husband also at that time was ready to do something else. And so that's when I started the mystery school. And there, it was just, phenomenal. It just went further and further. I mean, I gave, by that time I was giving talks and so on, but I'd have my notes. And at that point, I was meditation leader. I've been that for over 50 years. So I always meditated. So at the time I was already meditating, but at that time it became even deeper. And then I decided, well, I don't want to use notes when I'm talking. So then I would just start trusting my inner self. And that was a big job for me because I came out of the background where it was one of these children, where you don't say anything unless you're actually spoken to. So that was something for me to come forward and trust. But I felt I needed to do that. And so in the mystery school, I never, ever wrote down a note for any time at all. But I would always meditate before I spoke. And I would lead my meditation first. So that would take me to that higher essence of myself so that I could tune into the higher essences. And then that's when I would give the talk. But I didn't need the notes then because I trusted what was coming through me was what was supposed to be said.
How long did it take you to work into that transition of trusting yourself and then feeling really confident in your talks?
Well, again, that was a progression because I started out with, when I started with Coptics, I said to the one that was the head of it, I said, so what should I do? And he says, well, what do you think you want to do? Just choose what you want to do. And I thought, well, I could lead meditations. I could do that. And so when I started doing this, what I did, I have done basically all my life, but I started first not actually starting alone. I would go and find a lovely poem or something that would start helping me to get into that alpha state, that meditative state. And then as I went along, I remember people coming up to me and saying, I just love it when you shift. And so reading the things was one, it was nice, but that took me to that space where I was able to shift and go into my inner self, my higher self. And so that's what they said, this is, it's so beautiful and so on. And so on, of course, the more I did it, then I didn't have to have any kind of prompts anymore. So then and then that made, I've got meditations, professional meditations I've made, some on the earth and some on the Saqqara pyramid and the initiation temples of Egypt. So I did that. And so but then I still didn't feel as comfortable speaking, just doing a talk. So I would give talks and so on, but then I always had to do my research and I always had to have my notes. And when I started the mystery school, that's when I said to myself, I want to learn how to speak without any notes, totally trusting. And I was able to do that. Maybe it was because I felt comfortable with the people I had there, because we had from 15 to 35 people at our home. And that would, like I said, 15, 16 years. So, but right at the beginning, that was sort of what I wanted to do, for myself, was to be able to feel at one with the divine that quickly. So
thank you for sharing that. That's really important for people watching and those walking this path, that what you just shared, that it takes, first you had an intention and then you practiced and you worked with mentors and you asked for feedback, and that it actually takes time, practice, dedication, and commitment to build that tool of intuition and build that muscle of being able to express oneself authentically from a place of source energy.
Yeah, and then I wanted to go on, and I didn't mention the thing about the that Egyptologist, the esoteric Egyptologist part, is what I want to mention first how this whole thing came about with that, and that involves more like a relationship thing for me, because I might already mention it, but I really wanted this relationship with my husband and I when we were walking together, because I did feel we had a reason to be together and there was something we were meant to do. And so one time at one of the Coptic conferences, someone came and they brought papyrus art. And I was looking, I said to Carl, I said, I want you to get that for me. It was my birthday in a few days. And it was a Tutankhamun and his bride in the garden, equal. They looked so balanced together. And that's what I wanted in our relationship, was this balanced relationship. And then what was really even more interesting was that weekend a trip to Egypt was being given away, and I won it. So,
wow.
Yeah, and so we were really meant to go. So, but John Davis was the head of Coptics, and he was the one doing the trip, and he didn't have a trip that year. That usually in November people seem to go, and so we went with another group. And so we went to Egypt, but I said to Carl at one point, I was a systems analyst at that time, and I had my own business, and so I was working extra hours so that we could go. And I said to him, I said, "Boy, I'm so tired of working." And he says, "You're the one that wants to go anyhow." I thought, okay. And I said, "Well, if you don't want to go, I'll take someone else." But of course he did go. But the thing of it was looking at that papyrus art and recognizing that balance I wanted in our life. That's what our challenges were. These were going to be shown to us while we were in Egypt. And not so much me, but more Carl than me. That's why he didn't want to go. He was resistant to going to Egypt. And so we had some experiences in Egypt that really showed still have some work to do in our relationship. But then one day we really were sort of like this one of the nights, evenings, and we actually said, well, maybe we shouldn't even be together and go our own way. And so then the next day we met with the group, and the person that was leading, he says, "Well, today we're going to go to the temple of relationships." And Carol and I looked at each other and we just started laughing because we tuned right into that temple. So we had an interesting experience, beautiful experiences, there, and it helped. And of course, it really did help for our relationship to become more balanced. But we needed to do that for us to be actually more effective when we were teaching other individuals.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you were craving a more balanced relationship, and this was an intention and a seed you were planting in the universe. Next thing you know, you won a trip to Egypt. Mm-hmm. And even though Carl was resistant, he chose to go, and it actually healed and expanded your relationship in ways that you could not have imagined, and strengthened it.
Not that everything was, wonderful all the time, but, because relationships are relationships. But no, certainly it impacted both of us. And we just did more. And we started even speaking, many more places. And I got to the point where I was doing meditations to open seminars and here in Canada and so on. So it's just everything. It just helped open us a little bit more. And that's the thing, is if you keep you don't have to try hard, because you don't want to force anything, but allow yourself and put that intention into yourself every single day. Divine will is being done through me. It becomes greater and greater. And yes, there will be some resistance, but that's part of the growth also, right? So yeah, here we are now. He's going to be 90 and I'm going to be 81 this year. And we're still here. We're still doing things. And I was thinking we were going to be slowing down, and it seems like it's just been speeding up again. So
I was going to say, you've been teaching at the Spiritual Center. The two of you are impacting so many lives right now. It's beautiful. I'm excited to be able to speak with both of you and to explore your work. The impact that you're making at the center, and the feedback has been amazing from everyone that gets to sit down or come to one of you and Carl's workshops. It's wonderful.
Well, thank you so much. Really, that was okay. We're winding down. All of a sudden, oh my gosh, it was just like, and I really recognized, okay, there's something else we're meant to do together. So we've done many things, we've been leaders of, Coptics. We've had the mystery school. We've both written books. And so it's like, okay, at our ages, we're going to start winding down a little bit. But no, our spirit is saying, no, there's still more you got to do.
And if someone wanted to work with you, what offerings do you have right now, and how do you help them? I know that you do a lot with relationships and work with women, and have helped them a lot, especially. Let's talk about that right now. In today's age, there's so many people wanting deeper connections and struggling for connection. Mm-hmm. I would love your feedback and how you can help people with that, and what you kind of offer.
Well, what I feel is that to really understand, it's not exactly the same as that individual is experiencing, but there's something similar that you may have experienced. And so I've had my challenges, especially in that arena, so of marriages, because I've had a few. And now, as I said, Carl and I have been together almost 50 years, married. We have been together 50 years, but married, 48. So I had many experiences before I got to that space where I knew myself enough that what I wanted. And again, but I would never have gotten any of that if it wasn't for my being connected at some point. I grew up as a Catholic, so I was connected, but I was like a little holy girl. And so I was in church a lot and so on. But there was a point where it was time for me to leave and move somewhere else. And then it happened that I went to Carl's church. He was a Lutheran minister. And I was directed to do it in the inner plane, but I wasn't really listening. But I already knew Carl because our girls were in nursery school together. That's the only way I knew him, but I never even spoke to him. But I was getting married for a second time, and I called the Catholic Church, and they said, "There's nothing we can do for you, click." And I thought,
Wow.
I've been a good Catholic all my life, and they won't even talk to me, even if they wanted to talk me out of it. But so I thought, and then I said to the man, I was very short-term marriage. It was very interesting. It's like I wasn't listening to what was being said here. Go to that church, go to that church, go to that church. So and this man and I were together for 4 years, and so I said, well, we're not going to get married. Let's just split. And he says, well, I didn't want to lose me. So I called Carl, and he said, yes, I'll marry you. And so he performed our marriage, but it only lasted 11 months. It was very short term after being together all those years. And then, he had 3 children, I had 3 children. That was very tough. It was a rough one. It was one that was communable and so on. It just didn't blend well. So because I've had a lot of life experience, and even before that, I've had many life experiences because I was born during World War II and malnutrition, on and on. It was just been a life of many, many experiences. It wasn't just like I walked out here and everything was hunky-dory in my life from day one. It wasn't. So by that time, I knew what I wanted, and I wasn't going to settle for anything less than this. And eventually, Carl came around, and we came together, and he recognized it too. We have a purpose, and you have a purpose. But how do you do that? That's the part. That's where I'm helpful to individuals. I'm going to say probably women more than men. I do work with men also, but the thing of it is because just for them to figure out, what should I do? How do I do this? And how do I get there to be able to do that? So that's the kind of counseling I would do. But I do other things. I do the Sakara healing method is the one that was given to me the most recent after many, many years. And as was mentioned, we visited Sakara, when Carl and I were in Egypt. But that is such a powerful experience, and also because I've had so many years of tapping into the divine. So that's what I believe really makes it so important, and it's powerful because when we do this, first you're cleared. We're both cleared. We have our own divine ones that are present with us, and then in opening us and calling in the healers that are their healers, not my healers, but their healers, so that they can oversee everything that's going on. And then I ask that the divine I am of me and the I am of them, that we communicate together. So it's not like me hearing something, but it's both of us. We're talking together. So to have it be as clear as possible, that's the focus, is for it to be as clear as possible. And that's what makes it so powerful, because it's the energy that you're experiencing too. It's not just the words. There's not even quite that much talking. There is some during that, but it's more just explaining what's going on and so on. And then clearing everything out from head to toe and tapping you into the earth plane, tapping you up into the heavens, so that you are that individual that now becomes the one that's walking head in the heavens and feet on the ground. That universal sign, the infinity sign. That's what you are. That's what you are meant to be. And that way, you are truly, truly walking what you are meant to walk and do what you're meant to talk. You speak the words you're meant to speak and so on. So that's probably my most powerful one.
And if I'm understanding you correctly, you're explaining that you are the conduit and the facilitator, and work with people who are ready to embrace their own power, and you help make that happen, and then help them
Right.
understand, excuse me, how to walk with that
Mm-hmm.
in today's world.
Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean they may come back sometime, but they may never come back just because it maybe as all they're in that space that they only need one of these kind of sessions. But sometimes because of life and the things that go on, maybe you're out of balance, really out of balance again or something. But it really is a very, very powerful thing. And I never used to get feedback, but now all of a sudden I'm starting to get feedback of things that how it has impacted them. And it's like, wow, because usually you don't hear anything. So it's just interesting how life is, because all you want to do is be of service, and it doesn't matter whether you hear about it or not, because put yourself in that state, be of service, and that's all. Let it go, and how it transpires is how it transpires. But rarely do you get feedback, and it seems like more lately, and I think again it's because we're getting pushed, not really pushed, but said, hey, you've got more to do. That some of this,
Invited.
so I'm getting more feedback about the results from individuals
Right,
now,
you're being invited out to do more.
yeah. So that's what's going on. But there's so many wonderful things out there to learn, and so I know people are going to be drawn to what it is that they're meant to do. But there are times, okay, there's got to be a shift. Okay, I've learned this, I've done this, and so on. There's still another yearning, I'm going to say.
Well, and you can do these sessions, but everything that we've talked about, you can do via Zoom and remotely, since time and energy doesn't actually exist.
Exactly.
So I just want to clarify to people, just because we're in Grand Rapids, Michigan, does not mean they need to be. They can be anywhere in the world to have these powerful experiences with you and to work with you.
Right. So, but there's other things, we do consulting. We do, I will do a little bit of a spirit, disembodied spirit placement, but not much. That's more my husband's arena. But for a family or just an individual, if it's small, I can do those things. See, because I really trust whatever's being given to me is what I'm supposed to be doing. And
that's beautiful.
And then because I'm fortunate enough to have Carl here, then in that arena specifically, if I feel like that's not really my thing, I can call Carl in, and then he can help out with that part of it. So we're a good team.
Speaking of that, and since practitioner, like balanced relationships is one of your things, what advice would you, or would you share with someone who is in just starting out relationships, or maybe searching for the perfect relationship, or maybe struggling in the relationship they're in? Like, what is the biggest thing that you have learned that,
Well, basically you have to settle it within yourself. And so I really recommend that you meditate every day, anyhow, morning and at night. Carol and I both do that with our individuals that we teach, so that you tune in. Again, tuning is so important. And and that's can be a little hard because we learned everything's out here. So to start bringing first and foremost that divine within you, and recognize and believe it's within you. Because if you don't see the divine dwelling within you, it's a little bit harder. So that might be something you have to, it's necessary to do. But first and foremost, recognize that everything is within you, so that everything that you're feeling is actually something that you yourself need to balance out within yourself. So by utilizing meditation and visualizing, even what the anger is that you might be carrying, and then sending that divine radiant light and love from your heart mind to that, and starting to dissolve that and see what's left, and then you can more easily see what's actually the cause, what is causing this disruption between us. And then if there's really something that you need to go and speak to your partner about, do it more. You have to have the divine within you part of it. It's not, if you don't do that, you can't communicate with your partner with the heart. So everything has to be heart to heart the divine to the divine. And that's how you can resolve it more. Now, your partner may not want to do that. So then you're the one that gently starts prodding. And if you, by seeing that there's changes occurring within you, then it's more apt that changes will start with the partner also. Because there's some kind of a change going on. And so instead of pushing yourselves apart more, we're actually starting to soften, even if it's just on the inner, to start recognizing. And yes, not all marriages last. I can attest to that. But the thing is that you have to look at yourself first. Okay, what are my blockages? What's causing me not to be able to understand what's going on here? And can I understand it? Or do I need some guidance to understand it? So that's when you may want to go see someone that may be able to help you. Whether it's someone that you speak to, a counselor, or whether it's someone that you're dealing with that's more coming from the spiritual realm, from the metaphysical realm. So that seems to have been, it seems to be quite successful. I mean, and I really try not to teach anything that I haven't experienced myself as far as utilizing this energy, this divine.
Thank you for that.
I really do, because
yes,
I know it because it worked. It worked for me. So I know it may work for you, it may not, but I know it's a way, and it worked. So, and then you have the people have to be able to do something too. It's just, we can do this, we can set you and balance you, but if you're not willing to do anything, it's not going to work out. So they have to do their part also.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, the best advice you can give to a healthy relationship is look in the mirror and do your own work first. When there's challenges going on, look at you, look at self, figure out what's going on in self first, and always focus on self first, and then be able to show up to the relationship from a place of wholeness and clarity. And that in turn creates a healthier relationship, or at least opens up the options for more choices if we're the only one doing the work, whether we choose to stay or not.
Right. But the other thing it does was it makes you stronger in your heart. Because even with, saying mantras, because that's a way to start moving into a space like that. If you do it more in the meditative state, which is when you're going to sleep at night, you're going through that state because you're winding down, you're starting to relax. So your conscious and subconscious are sort of balanced together. Saying a mantra at that level, that's worth like 100 to 200 times more than saying it out loud.
Say that again. So doing a mantra during the sleep state, between sleep and
when you're starting to drift into, it's the meditative or the alpha state. Your mind and your subconscious are more equal. So when you're saying it, then it goes further. It's like you're saying it 100 times instead of one. When you're in this physical state, your mind is just out there. It's out there because you're doing your physical things and so on. So and then you start, saying mantras after mantra after mantra. That's saying it like one time. If you bring yourself into that state, where that relaxed state, the alpha state, as you're just drifting off to sleep, and say that mantra even once, it's worth about 100 times or more.
So the state that we are in when we work with our mantras or affirmations is extremely important, is what I'm hearing you say. Well, and that it makes a difference, and it's more powerful at certain times versus others.
Yes, because if you're in the alpha state and you're saying not in the alpha, you're going through it, but you don't even know it and have no intention, and it's still, you don't know to work with it because and so maybe you don't even say them. Maybe you say your mantras during the day when you're really got all kinds of other things going on. So then it just doesn't go into that subconscious mind and then to the superconscious mind. So it's easier, it flows into that area better, and it settles better within yourself, so that can be created more, because that's
this is really important. And I'm asking these questions for anyone and for myself that may not understand the power of mantras as well. Like for someone who's not sure what we're talking about, mantras or self-affirmations, would you share a couple examples and a little bit about that?
Well, okay. I guess in a sense, I still use mantras all the time. You say, but I speak about them in, I'm gonna say more of a spiritual level now than, but basically, and they, some of the work that you've probably done, maybe you've done, and you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, I am a beautiful person. But if you say, I am a beautiful person, even that alone makes a big difference. Start saying, I am a beautiful person. And I'm not saying to be that, but I'm saying bring it from your heart on out by saying, I am a beautiful person. I am filled with divine radiant light and love. I'm whole and I'm complete. Things like that. When you say it with that power that is within your heart and saying it, if you're allowed, it's much more effective than if you're just saying, I am light, I am love, I am peace, I am joy. It just makes a big difference. And yes, you're saying affirmations, but then you say, well, why isn't anything working? Because you're not really feeling in your heart yet. You're not feeling that that's what you are. So when you make a statement, even to your spouse or a friend or whatever, if you say, this is what I desire in my life, period. If you really believe it's part of what is in your heart, and it isn't just selfish, it has to be truth. It really has to be truth. And you're not coming from a space of being selfish, but no, this is what I can only settle for this because this is what I am. I am. That word I am, that is such a powerful word because when you say I am, that is what you are. And if you follow yourself in any way, say I'm less than, or however you want to say that, that's what you're going to keep feeding within your mind and heart.
So let's go there with what you just said.
Okay.
So for those of you that are watching this, or for people that do not have their own mantra and may not understand, basically our mantra is our intentional self-talk. Whereas if we're just letting thoughts and anger or not conscious of what's running through our process, that those are more unconscious mantras that then become our verbal language. And so what you're actually suggesting and talking about is programming ourselves on a subconscious level so that it effectively will start changing our belief system, changing our thoughts, and changing how we feel about ourselves, which then leads into a ripple effect of how we behave and can change everything about our external reality. However, it starts from within, and sometimes it takes time and practice to build up the energy around the new thoughts or the new words or the created mantras to change our thinking patterns, our belief patterns, and our expression patterns. But it has to be a commitment, and we have to actually get to a point where we believe that, even if we don't in the beginning.
That's true.
What if someone has a hard time believing good stuff about themselves or doesn't think that they're beautiful? What would you say to someone like that to kind of help with this process, or that may not believe it but wants to believe it?
Well, I believe that if they want to believe it, continue doing it. Don't give up on what you're doing right now. Like I said, it might be weaker when you first start out because you don't really believe it. But don't give up because, as I said, if you say the mantra, it's still going in there. It's just not going in there as quickly and as powerfully as if you were opening yourself up and recognizing the person that you are. But utilizing affirmations, which is a good way, do it also not only now wherever you are at, but I do recommend looking in the mirror and then say, I am light, I am love, I am peace, whatever it is that you want to be. I want to be a stronger person or something like that. I am a stronger person. And stop saying I wanna or I do not accept. Look, get rid of no's or nots because the subconscious mind doesn't even accept a no or a not. So you're actually giving a message that you don't want to create, which is.
So let's say that out loud again. When we use negatives, we're actually affirming the negative because that's what we're programming is the negative. There are no we don't our subconscious does not recognize negatives. All it recognizes is this is the message playing, so this is what's going to happen.
Right. So again, and it's really hard to do, to tell you the truth. Even When I,
Yeah.
with my husband, you know, because one of the tools that we use is I use my necklace for dowsing, which is the pendulum. And
Hmm.
my husband, he has the dowsing rods. And sometimes he asks a question and he'll say, not. And I'll say, and he's the one that basically taught me to eliminate that word. But yet it's so easy for any of us to get back to saying it that way. So you're really canceling out what you're trying to actually commit to or have your heart feel. So it is tricky, but you know what? After you do it for a while, you'll start seeing results. And then you'll feel better about it. But again, using that mirror, look at yourself, and it's one of the I remember way back when I first started studying these types of fields, that one time this woman that was leading us, and then she says, now I want you to go look at a beautiful picture. And we sat in front of a mirror, beautiful drawing or whatever she said. And then look at it and start and look at it and enjoy it and recognize the beauty that's in it. And that's a really powerful, powerful experience. And if you look at yourself in the mirror, and you can do that because every day you're probably in front of the mirror at some point, and is that if you start really looking at yourself deeper, it's interesting how you change. Your expression changes, your whole facial structure can change because you're seeing a deeper part of yourself. You start seeing that inner essence of your being. And that's what starts showing, not just to you, but others recognize that too. So,
Hmm.
but that's a really good one. And and I know people will write affirmations on their mirrors and so on, just to remember to say them. But I really do recommend to take a few deep breaths and try and relax into that time that you're going to be doing that. And it'll get better and better. It gets easier and easier. But I know it's not like a one day thing.
No, I remember. Well, that's why I'm asking these questions. For me in the beginning, it was really hard. Like, I really struggled to look in the mirror and say positive things about myself. I hadn't heard positive things about myself. And so
Right.
it was really hard to actually believe that someone could actually love me or believe in me or like me. Like, it was really challenging, and to want to like myself. So yeah, it took me years to actually fall in love with myself and believe the things that I was telling myself over all of the things that I heard, and to feel it in my body. It took a lot of time. Yeah, this is huge stuff that it seems so simple, but to actually feel it at a cellular level really takes time, commitment, practice, and dedication to wanting to become the best version of ourselves. Uh, it's not an accident. It's a dedication.
And really, this is only the beginning. I mean, because you're going to grow and grow and grow and grow and become
Mm-hmm.
and become and become and become. So more and more and more and more. So you'll be carrying that essence with you, all the time, and people already, they'll start noticing there's something really different, and
I
they'll
love that
be
you call it
drawn
an
to it.
essence. Would you speak a little bit more into that, and why you call it an essence?
Because I think you feel it more than you may see it. You say, "Oh, wow, you look good." So, you've changed or something like that. But along with that, there's a feeling that there's a lightness, a total lightness. It's like this flowing energy that you build up around you, and it's almost like an embracing energy too. But I do want to talk about that whole embracing thing also, because you also are responsible for taking care of yourself and making sure that these energies that are not positive don't just want to creep in. And so with that, I would going to sleep at night and going and waking up, taking like I said, in the alpha state, do affirmations and or however you want to do it, but then fill yourself with that divine light so that you can build your bubble of light, this essence that you are. Also, but not that it's so tight that nothing can come through from you, but it can flow from you. And do the affirmation action of only light and love dwells here. Only light and love can penetrate this essence of mine, this aura of mine, if that's what you want to call it, and only light and love flows from me. So it's a three-way thing. It's within here, it only flows in, it only flows out. So nothing that is less than perfection can come into you, and nothing than perfection leaves from you. So you're always coming from the divine heart, and that which is less than divine heart from someone else coming in, it says, well, there's this boundary here, and it's an invisible boundary, but it says, no, I can't really go there. I'm not, or it might try sometimes, and then you send more light and love if you can feel that. And the more you do it, you start recognizing signs anyhow. And it's easy for me to say because I've been doing it for so many years. But really, even the students, the ones that are just learning, and I don't know how long you've been in metaphysics, Willow, but it takes a while, but you'll start seeing results if you want to continue to do it. Many people give up way too soon, I think.
Yes.
But it's their life, so it's really not too soon. They're just not ready for it at that point in time.
I think that I've been studying it for about 10 years, and
Okay.
I think that I see the layers. Like, I'm starting to see the spiral and the layers, and how I keep coming back to the same experiences with the new perspective and the new
Yes.
wisdom and the ability to now make better choices.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was listening to when you were talking about the perfectionism of the light and the love that comes in and goes out. And I know I used to be stuck in a place of thinking everything had to be perfect.
Yeah.
And what came up for me with that is that the perfection is the energy. However, it doesn't change the fact that we're still humans, and our expression might still need a little help. That while it's starting from within, and when we can embody and embrace that feeling deep within, it still takes time to create and learn how to express it in a way that is aligned with that and is received with that same intention of light and love.
And then again, because we are human and still living here on this earth plane, there's still going to be challenges. So it's not like you're finished. This is it, and I don't have to do any more. So you have to always be basically sort of aware that things can possibly challenge you again. And maybe some of that is for the mere fact to have you recognize, hey, you're getting a little sloppy, or something like that.
Well, and what I'm getting from you too is basically the meditation, and what you're offering is that we're setting the foundation and strengthening our foundation every day. But it doesn't mean that I just don't want anyone watching this to think that there has to be a point that we get to a point where we are perfect, because we're not. We never will be perfect human beings. And that what you're sharing is an invitation to strengthen our intuition, strengthen our boundaries, strengthen our resilience, and strengthen our sense of self, so that when these challenges come, now we have a way to navigate it with grace, with ease, with wisdom, with experience versus chaos. And the more that we do this, the more that we're actually maturing.
Yes, in recognition of who you truly are. But yet, that you still have challenges, because we are human. So, you may have something negative that comes to you. This year I've had a year where I've had some things that were not the greatest, and I've been ill in various stages through the year, because one thing triggered the next, and so on. And so why is that? So it's interesting, because you never like to go through those things, and also you forget things during those times. You forget even to sometimes do your affirmations and so on, or see yourself being that perfect light and love. And then finally, more than likely, you probably by that time you'll have someone around you that might say, well, have you tried this? No, I only taught that to you 20 years ago, but I didn't try it yet this time, to bring myself back, because you forget. So don't be too hard on yourself if there was a time when, I forgot about that, and so on. That's just the way life is. But the thing is that, as they say, you'll never be given more than you can handle. And I believe that. I believe that what the challenges are given to us are ones that we can handle if we tune in to that higher essence of ourselves. And then the more so, I want to bring this up too, is that the more you do this, there's more intuition that you also have. because there's an inner recognition of things. So that's what I realized all of a sudden after coming out of this, and I'm sort of at the tail end of this challenge I had this year, is that I feel like I'm picking up things even quicker and recognizing things quicker, and even deep things, which of the inner knowing, and so on, and outcomes of things and so on. That kind of thing has happened, I believe, this year for me. And I think that's probably one of the reasons I had to be put down basically flat on my back. So I didn't look at all the outer stuff. So that very often is why we become ill and so on, is because we're rushing. And I just saw something, I don't even know what I was watching, where they, you just like this little rat that's in a cage pumping away. And we do that, with our mind, because we think everything is so important and so on. So it's hard for us to tune into that aspect first. That's why it's important, really, that at least say a couple affirmations. Try and stay 10 minutes into that meditative state and get positive as you're going to sleep, as you're waking up in the morning. But do it also throughout the day. And the other thing is I've taught meditation for a long, long time, and I've always felt that meditation is a way of life. So you're not only meditating when you're meditating, your life is a meditation. If you stop and think about it, how many times you're really in that alpha state throughout the day. I mean, I'm not saying when you're using your brain to the full capacity, when you're doing some big problem or something. But for instance, okay, so you're walking down the street and walking to the car, and there'll be thoughts that are coming to your mind because you're starting to relax. So think something positive at that point in time. And so just little things like that will really, help assist you to be more and more in that state of higher consciousness and awareness. So, and the more you do it, the more it happens. Okay, you're vacuuming and you're thinking about something. And why am I thinking about this? It's just say an affirmation or two, and override it with some mundane thought that you might be having. So it's really a thing of awareness about that you yourself have about these different things that are going on, really within you too, within your brain.
It's within my body too. I noticed that a lot of my upgrades or meditations or what I'm moving through, I feel it so intensely in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
sometimes it's like a rush where I will feel completely euphoric and discombobulated, and then it's like I just freeze and half of my body is numb, and it feels like I've got these waves of energy going through me. Sometimes it's super painful, sometimes it's numbing, and sometimes it's paralyzing. And then it's like if I move in that moment, I lose it all. But if I can just be as still as possible and breathe as slow as possible, then eventually it regulates, and it's like I can feel everything regulating, and all of a sudden I'm like fully present. Like I'm fully present the whole time, but all of a sudden that I have more sensation and more access to my body and to awareness. Do you experience it in your whole body like that too, or just more in your thoughts?
No, I'm an extreme sensitive, so I just feel all kinds of things in my body. So I have to regulate that. But one of the things that I tend to experience is I have this type of thing going on in my head, and I mean it's so strong. It's just you feel like you're just, and so I do a lot of talking to my I am. And so what I do is I ask that my I am monitor what's coming into my physical body, because those that are sending you energy from the higher realms, they more than likely have never experienced the earth plane. So they don't know physicality. They don't know how hard bones are. They don't, because everything flows more easily on the etheric realms. So they don't understand that you can't, because even though you have come to a space where you, in their eyes, let's just say eyes, you can take all this energy, because they see it at a totally different level than we see ourselves, and they don't understand the physicality of that holding you down type of a feeling, with the body being so heavy and everything. So what I do, I ask that the I am of me take control and monitor. Not that I'm unwilling to have these energies come in and allow them to settle within me and in my physical, mental, emotional, or on and on bodies, but that it's more than I can handle right now. I'm not rejecting them. I just need to have them slow down so that I can function in this world. So, and that
That
seems
makes
to help
sense.
me. And then it doesn't, before you know it, all of a sudden you can feel it just settling. Your mind's starting to become clear, at least mine does. And then where I can think better and so on, where like, when this thing is going like this, I can't think at all. It's like, I'm just like in a stupor, okay, here I am. But I got things I do need to do on this earth plane also. So,
Yes.
but they're, for me, they're all steps. Now, see, I'm coming from this, I'm going to say more from an empath.
Hmm.
My husband is very much, he doesn't really feel hardly anything. He's just got this, but he's very much a head person. And so this is one of the things we've done and helped each other with, is because he's helped me to become more mental instead of always having all these beautiful, energies from my heart.
Hmm.
And he has, it moved into his heart more, but he's not near like me because I'm this open. I
I'm
can do
laughing
almost
because I'm
everything.
agreeing with you.
Yeah, and he's not, and he does a lot of work that's a little harsh for me, and so I keep trying to send him to him, but for some reason I must have made some kind of an agreement to be part of this process because I haven't been. But it is what it is, and you have to recognize what it is that you feel is appropriate. And to me, it's like I okay, we've been together 50 years, and it's like, and he was my third marriage. I thought the other ones never lasted. One lasted 8 years, and the other 11 months. And then thinking 50 years, we've been together for 50 years. So I mean, we had a purpose together. And I do believe that we had a purpose together. I do think that we created some really nice things, not even just in the metaphysical arena, but also family wise and so on. So, but, so we had to change somewhat, to be able to walk together in a good space, usually. I'm not going to say we don't have our times, because we do, and that's life. But again, I think that's part of the whole challenge, even yet, of what we're still learning here on the planet. There's always something more that we're going to learn here, as long as we're on the Earth plane. And then when it,
Well, and what you're showing us too is that when two people choose each other consciously and commit to each other and commit to building a life together and figuring it out, that there's always a way, that it may not always be easy, but if there's love and there's commitment and there's dedication to finding a new communication style so that you can be able to communicate and to help each other, that anything is possible. And that's really beautiful.
well, it is, but yet on the other hand, maybe they're not supposed to be together. Maybe their time together is so. If it is, they'll know it, but they're leaving each, that relationship with no regrets and no anger and things like that. It's like, okay, there's another purpose I have now. That does happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, when you get married, you need to stay together forever and ever and ever, because we have different things that we came down to the earth plane to accomplish. And something, I believe, of course, in, twin souls and things like that. But sometimes you're here without them.
When you say you believe in twin souls, what do you mean by that? Tell me more, or what you
Twin
believe.
souls and twin flames is that you were actually in this one soul in the heart mind of the divine. And then you volunteered, this whole you with this one soul, to come down and learn, because they wanted to learn more about the lower vibrations and so on, because you come from the heart mind of God. So, okay, so then you go to a next level. You may go to that level together as this one and stay there, and you could go through all these different, because you have to go down from level to level, because the dimensions, you have to go through the dimensions, because you can't jump from the heart and mind of the divine creator into the third dimension. that energy it just won't work. You have to come down step by step. So you could stay together, but usually what happens is maybe you're in the 11th dimension together, and then you realize, we could get through and learn more if we separated. So that they separate, that you still have the masculine and feminine energies, and you still have soul, but it's not that completed soul. So a twin soul is more like the completed soul, that they've come back together. So they each go their own way, accumulating lots and lots of different energies and so on. And sometimes they might come together during their journeys, or maybe not. Maybe one of the twin souls might be here in his third dimension, the other is on another dimension. But there's still a connection. And there is a point in time where I believe, this is my belief, is that when you're ready to go back to the heart mind of God together, you do come back together. But you have this being of light now has their experiences, the other has that experience. And not always is it just, okay, we're together, now we're going back. It's not, because they've learned different things, and they've also had certain pains, and things that they've experienced, and the other has different things too, So you're coming together now, and you in a sense, you're both sort of broken souls, because you've had how we've had many experiences in a lifetime that were negative, and we've heartaches and so on. So these have to blend back together before they can go back to the heart mind of God together. I've actually got in Patreon this month, I actually put out an article that I had written, because I've written articles for magazines and so on also, on the twin flame and twin soul and so on, and I go somewhat into that, how that all works, and how you really need to possibly work together again, and some are not willing to change.
So you believe that there actually is another living being that is our twin that's on this earth? That there's one?
There can be.
But okay, so not everyone is having that experience.
No, some have that experience. Some, their twin soul may be in a third, fifth, who knows, a different dimension. But if they split, they are going different places, because they want to have different experiences and so on, so they can bring more home to the oneness of where they came from. But also, while no matter what level they're on, they're also teaching those that are above them, because many of those ones that are in the heart mind of the divine haven't really left to explore. It's like the prodigal son almost, leaving and learning, and the one stays in the comfortable spot and doesn't experience, right? So, but most of the time, they both want to experience. That was sort of something they made. And what I share in that article is because I do think Carl and I had walked that kind of a path this time. And so that's what I mean about the whole recognition, having to go through this thing about bringing us together, because we did have a purpose. So, but at one time, this is many years ago, Carl had this visualization in his mind where we are actually in a different, not in the earth plane, but we're on another dimension together. And we're actually, there wasn't material like it is here, it was just energy. And like we were one energy. And then each one of us could leave and flow and go away from that energy, but we always united in this oneness at that time. So that was more, and it was a different dimension. It wasn't where you had this man and this woman, or woman and woman, however. So, but if you're there, you're either on the way back home probably, or on the way to starting to leave, where you're still that intertwined. Or maybe that's all the further you want to go, and then we want to go home to heart and mind of God. We've got all these choices. There's nothing stopping us. It's all within our heart and mind. So, but it's an interesting journey.
It really is. And that's a beautiful place to start winding down. I want to be mindful of your time, and I appreciate it so much. But basically what you're saying is we all have unlimited choices, and we need to decide. And once we decide and commit, and our heart and our head are aligned, then it's game on.
Yeah, it really is. And it is a beautiful journey. And yes, it's not like Carol and our life together has never had any challenges, because it has. But there's just that heart commitment. It's like before we were married, because he was a handsome man, minister and so on, and all the ladies loved him. And so I said, well, I'm not going to be one of your heroes. Period. Period. Because I wasn't going to put up with anything that was not going to be committed, to he and I.
Good for you.
But no, that took a lot of courage for me. Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm saying if you are living this earth, and this earth plane, and you have problems relationship, for me at least it was this, I'm not settling for anything less. This is what I want in my heart, and that's it. And if it's not going to be you and I, but we had too many signs even before we were married saying we were to be together. And then, like I said, we had challenges even afterwards. But deep in our hearts, we knew that we were to be together. And, it's worked very well for us, even though, like I said, even the challenges are part of the growth, our
Yeah.
soul growth. And the other thing that I feel it has done for me is it's helped me to understand challenges. And that's what helps me to work with individuals, is because I didn't have their exact experience, but I could relate to it.
You have a lot of amazing skills that can assist people through.
Mhm.
Yeah, you've acquired a lot of skills.
Yeah, and really I have, and I can say that after all
Yes.
these years, I can really, and it comes from the heart. I really feel what I share comes from the heart.
Well, and wisdom can only be gained from experience, and you have a lot of really useful life experiences that you have embraced and really chosen to say, okay, even though this was hard, what are the gifts from this? And it sounds like that's what you and Carl have really done, is say, wow, that was tough, but what is the magic and the medicine and the gifts that just came out of that beautiful experience?
Well, yes, yes, but it's been really good. It's been a good, experience, and it's like, wow, 50 years. It's just almost shocking to me now to think, even that I'm that much older, so because I still feel like I have a lot of positive energy to share and so on, so.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for this time and for sharing so authentically from your heart and sharing how to get in the heart. This has been such a beautiful experience. And for anyone wanting to work with Ortrun and learn more, look in the comments below. There'll be links to her Patreon site as well as her website so that you can sign up to work with her and possibly do one of the Sakura sessions and a healing session with her. Do you have any last words of wisdom or anything else that you want to say before we say goodbye?
Well, I just want every one of you to know that you are divine, and you truly, truly are divine. And I'm saying that from my heart. But I know that you have a purpose here on this planet, and the thing to do is to recognize that you are that divine being of light and love and peace and joy. And then bring yourself back to that space every single day, going into sleep, waking up. There's more things you could do, but do that, and that in itself is going to help you be that one that you truly are, and trust yourself. Trust that you are that, because you are.
Thank you, Ortrun, and thank you everyone for watching. We really appreciate your support and look forward to the next time.
Thank you, Willow. It was really nice being with you and everyone else out there too. I'm sending lots of light and love and hugs to you.